warriors. Living and surviving are two different things. Today's special guest is Sarah Price, VP of People for Pillar for Media. Please give a warm warrior welcome to Sarah Price.
Dear Life Warriors, it's me, Shar, your favorite corporate life coach. And today I am talking to the one and only Miss Sarah Price. She is VP of People for Pillar for Media. I'm not excited because she is vice president of this company. What I'm really excited about, for those of you who have seen me speak anywhere, keynote speak, I usually include my journey, how I got started in human resources. Well, Sarah is the woman responsible for my HR start. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here and to just have followed your journey after all of this time,
Right?
And now to be a part of this with you. I mean, this is a really special experience.
It is. I'm so excited. I'm so happy inside. I think I'm getting teary-eyed because, I don't think you realize how that very moment. I remember like it was yesterday walking in your office for that interview. I had just had a baby. Glassy was like 6 months.
Yep.
And I made a decision because I was actually coming out of an abusive relationship. I wasn't working. So I actually was available, right? To do this temp job, which I didn't care. I remember it was a Friday and I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And I could do, the interview was you made it so smooth, but it was it was to be a recruiting assistant for you for 3 months. It was temporary. And you're like, can you start on Monday? And I'm like, yes, I can. And then it's just history from there.
Exactly. And then you went full time and we worked together for a while and
you left.
I did. I left to move on in my journey and left you there, which is interesting because other people have said the same thing. It's really funny. But I remember, and I looked at you to say, she can do this. Like I know I can throw her into anything, which I think I did. And I saw you for who you were, right? I knew that you had a new baby. I knew that you had all of the competencies and I could teach you all the skills, but and I could teach you about HR, but it was the raw sort of determination and talent that I was like, I'm going to help her. Like it was, I care a lot about what I do, but I also, I saw what you could be. And I think that it was just the universe put us together.
And you know what, to kick off my human resources career with a manager like you, it really did set the tone for how I, treated people going forward in my role, because I remember that's why I was like, when you left, some harsh realities hit. That's when I realized not everyone is as kind as Sarah. But I do remember I operated at my best self for you just because of the way you showed up every day, and I really appreciated that. So I'm so happy I get an opportunity to really say that to you now at this point in my life and this time in my career. But, it's not about me. It's about you. This show is about your journey and everything that you've been doing and, you have gone through. And I don't even know where to start because it's just so much I want to ask you.
Yep. Well, I mean, what I'll say to that is that, and I feel like I've known you for so long at this point. Like, I'll start with what you said, which is super interesting. So here we are. I mean, I had no idea who I was at the time, what type of leader I was,
really,
who I was influencing. I knew what my core values were, and I knew who I wanted to be and how I wanted to lead you. I don't even like to use the word manage, right? It's just people lead you. We're part of a team. And fast forward 20 years, I've been on a massive journey with my own learning and development on really appreciating what you just said, which is so impactful because throughout my career, there have been different points in my career where I have had leaders say, Sarah, you're too kind, or you lead with too much emotion, or you're too passionate, right? And so I've had to do a lot of my own journey with coaching and with just through years of experience that you can't learn any other way from just doing it, right? That I want to lead authentically with who I am as a human being, but knowing that I know what I'm talking about from an HR perspective.
Right.
And a lot of times I tried to fit into another mold of not who I authentically was as a human, as a woman leader, as a teammate. And then these experiences with you and with some other people that I've led always seem to come back and remind me, you made a difference.
Yes.
You led and made a difference, right? Yes. So it's really, it's great to be here 20 something years later and realize how important that experience was for you, and somewhat sort of revalidates that how I was leading and showing up really was the right way. Right. And so if there's anything I've learned, one of the many, many things, it's lead as your authentic self.
Yes.
And that's why people will follow you as a leader.
Yes.
Right? Because they're seeing the human side of you. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, that means a lot, obviously, and sort of grounds me in, okay, I know what I'm doing is my purpose, right?
Yes. You absolutely. No, you did. And don't change that. Do not change that about you. I'm sure I met your team. So it seemed like they're so happy and and in love to be working with you. So definitely don't change that. I think a lot of people don't realize how much it is really our authentic self that makes people show up as their best self. And I love that you said, I don't like to use the word manage, I lead, because that's all it is. That's all we should, if we focus on leading and leading, correctly, I think you'll see a huge shift in productivity just coming out of your department and people that work for you. Because I experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it. But I also know, I hope you don't mind me going there. I know you've gone through, at the time you were married.
Yep.
Yes. And I was like,
you had a young child. I was married, but no kids yet.
No kids yet. So I also felt like you probably wouldn't even understand, because Glassy actually was a sickly baby. And oh my God, she would.
I remember.
Yeah, she was so sick. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't have any kids. She's not going to understand, or have any empathy, which you did. That was not you at all. You had a lot of empathy. So I thank you for that. But what I know, you went through a divorce, which is like, I didn't see that coming to even hear that happened, because then I know you started to have kids.
Yep.
And then, so what happened? Take me through that journey.
Yeah. So when we worked together, you had a baby at the time. And I remember, of course, I had empathy, but like, listen, you just can't even understand what having a child is until you have your own.
Right.
And so I had my first son, Jake, in 2006.
3 years after mine. Okay.
Yeah. So after, and had him with my husband at the time, and got divorced when he was 4. And my other son, Justin, who was born, was 6 months. Wow. So I had to make a really difficult decision. First of all, I'm living in New Jersey. I'm commuting into Manhattan. It's a 2.5 hour commute each way, walking, getting on the bus, getting on the subway, getting to the office. I've already been up for 4 hours, right? Taking care of the kids, dropping them off at daycare, and then having to show up as like this strong teammate and employee, right? Like nothing else is going on in my life. Don't worry. I've got this.
I got this.
When I'm freaking out that I'm leaving my, year-old or whatever at the time at daycare. I mean, that's, crushed my soul to be like 2.5 hours away, but you just have to do what you need to do. And listen, I mean, there's the career perspective of, I loved what I was doing. I've been in HR since I graduated school, which is also just very interesting because a lot of people either get into HR and leave or go do something else. And then they decide they wanted to go into HR and then their career pivots. This has just sort of been my journey from the get-go. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to work, always be in HR, but I wanted to work for small companies so I could see that growth. And then I went to different industries and larger companies so I could see that growth, knowing that in 20 years, I would see the whole spectrum of how to support a business from a talent leadership perspective, which has set me up from where I am today. But with my kids, it was also very, very important because I come from 2 divorced parents. My father passed away when I was 13. My mom was a teacher. She had like 4 jobs. We were latchkey kids. That basically means we sort of like raised and fed ourselves, right? Because my mom was working all the time. And so she probably instilled my work ethic and independence, which at times wasn't so great, right? Because now, still to this day, 48 years old, I don't know how to ask for help. I'm remarried now. I still can't ask for help.
Nope.
So I have this independence. And, you know, my kids were always the priority. Yeah. And I always said, I'm going to be a really proactive mom and I'm going to do as much as I can with them and in my career. And so, sure, sometimes did I bring that to work? I'm sure I did, because how can you not? I don't necessarily believe at this point in my life that you can, as working women or moms or dads or whatever, again, bringing your authentic self means you're bringing personal and work come together. Like, how can you possibly separate that? Right. Especially since COVID, right? Like I'm in my house and my kids are going to walk in, like, who knows?
Right.
And so honestly, Charisse, I look back and I don't know how I got through all of that, commuting and being a single mom for 9 years. And my kids are great. I mean, I'm sure I've screwed them up in some way. I don't think
You'll find out right around the 20-something mark because that's
perfect.
When I'm going through that now where I'm learning, you know, my daughter's mad at me for something, but you know, it's so interesting that you said you don't know how you got through it. And just you even walking me through this train commute, I don't think anyone really understands because I was that single mom showing up to work to you. And it was the same thing. I have to get up extra early, get the baby dressed, take the baby, drop the baby off to the babysitter, then get on the train, then get to work. Then I got to leave at, you know, time. As much as I want to, you know, work late or stay late, I can't. There's a cutoff. I got to get back on the train. Yeah. And it's not like we get off the train and we're right in the office. There's always a walk. I used to walk like 3 long blocks in the morning to get to the train station in the winters in the freezing cold. Had to sit on that train ride for at least an hour and 15 to 20 minutes. So when you say 2.5 each way commute, that pretty much was the life of just even working in the city. And I was coming from Brooklyn. So I get it. And I definitely feel like I'm stronger now because of that life that I once, the kids, my baby's 19. So I no longer. And I remember my mom kept saying, she kept going, it's going to get easier. It's going to get easier. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to make it though. I don't know if I'm really going to make it because then it was me for everything. It was doctor visits, emergency room, you know, unplanned lip teeth being, you know, bust out. It's all those things that come with it. And the one thing that I used to always have on my mind, instead of putting my kids first, I would think about the job. I'll be worried about, oh no, what am I not going to get done there for them?
Right. But you know where that's coming from, in my opinion, is, and for me, work, I've always lived to work, not worked to live, to just pay my bills. I've always cared so much about the job that I was doing. Right. And so to balance that with kids was just super challenging. Also, what I think what you're saying, at least for me, is this is how I was paying my bills. This is how I had a roof over my kid's head. This is why I could go to the grocery store and buy food. Sometimes with $1 in my account. And I'm like, oh, I guess I have to charge it because I have no idea how I'm buying food this week. Right. And so, and then you go to work and it's like, you have to turn off all of that. Oh, I couldn't buy food this week. My son had a fever over the weekend, something. And then feeling like you have to show up at work a certain way because you need this job to pay your bills. Right. Wow. So while I enjoyed what I was doing, especially when we worked together for sure. And up until now, I mean, my kids are 15 and 12 and it's still always something and a challenge. Right. But the biggest thing for me is I had to learn, it takes a village. Yeah. So I had to learn how to ask for help. I had to learn to just tell my ex, you have to take the kids to the dentist. I know you're going to be late for work, but like, I just can't do it again.
Right.
Or, and then he'd be like, okay. Right. And then I realized, well, every time I asked, even though I want him to just do it. Right. Not going to happen. Every time I asked, he stepped in. Great. Right. But I always felt like the responsibility, was on me. But now over time, reconnecting with you through an executive coach, through this energy healer that I have, through my acupuncturist, through a women's executive leadership group, you really have to take care of your whole self. Because what I'm learning is that your body keeps score, right? And I want to be around for my kids, and I love my job, and I want to be able to do my job, but I'm working like 15 hours a day, right? So my biggest learning for me was your body's keeping score on you. So you better, build in that mental time, whether it's to be with your kids or go to a baseball game and not bring your laptop. Right.
Right. Unpack that a little bit. Your body's keeping score. What does that mean exactly? It sounds amazing.
Yeah. So your body's keeping score. So this is something my executive coach helped me with. So when I started working with her about a year ago, I wasn't in the best place, like mentally and physically, and managing my time and managing the kids' time and figuring out how to continue to do everything. Right. And I had really bad inflammation and I was swelling all of the time and I had gut issues and all of these things. And you know this better than anyone else, but bring your whole authentic self and your body keeping score. You can't separate everything you're trying to work on, either with your therapist or holistic coach or an executive coach, and then leave out all the other stuff going on. Right. Like it doesn't work. Right. So sometimes I'd be on the phone with her and she'd be like, what's going on? And I'm like, I can't go to Jake's baseball game. I'm really upset about that. Well, that has nothing to do about work, but it has to do with, am I delegating to my team? Am I trusting them? What can I get off my plate? How am I organizing my meetings? Right. And so she helped me realize, what can you do for yourself? And I go to CrossFit 4 times a week. I go to acupuncture every other week. And those things have become, a priority for me as well, because I wasn't putting myself as a priority. It's just so hard as a mom, right?
Yeah.
And when you have a career as well, no matter what you do. So my body was keeping score, right? All of my emotions and all of my stress and all of my anxiety about work and about home and about the kids and about my new marriage and about the dogs barking and all of these things really had physical implications, migraines and inflammation and all the things. Like I had to get that under control.
Yes. And it is our daily routine. This is why I spend time in the mornings working on myself before I even start my day. I literally make sure no matter what I'm doing, if I have to be somewhere early, I get up earlier because I know I need that time.
Right.
Self-care, self-reflection, meditation, motivation. Like I do all that before I actually start my day. And that's where the holistic approach comes in, because you do have to think about yourself first. You can't show it for anybody else, not even your kids. If you are not the best Sarah that you could be for you. And it's so crazy. I just now started with a relationship therapist because you're on your second marriage and have never been married yet.
Yep, that's okay. Everyone's on their own journey.
I'm like, something got to give, Lord.
Right.
But I realized I had to start unpacking my own fears and insecurities when it comes to relationship. And that's like the biggest discovery that I'm going through right now, is like just really learning how I really do feel about relationships. I am my own blocker. I'm blocking myself from that.
Correct.
Because I have a fear of it not working out, me being cheated on, so much different insecurities. I was in an abusive relationship, just even that within itself still comes with trauma. And if you don't unpack those things and, like she says, take it off the shelf.
Yep.
You've been great this far in your life because you've been focused on work, and, work is so successful. So you just put all your energy there. Oh, the kids are great. So you put all your energy there. Oh, relationships.
Right.
I'm like, no, thank you.
Right. Well, I very similar work to you, in doing very similar work and unpacking really through the divorce and raising the kids, how I'm showing up at work, or how I'm showing up in this marriage now, and what feelings and traumas are coming up from all of that. I mean, I have 48 years of great experiences and various traumas that I bring into every day. So like you said, unpacking what that is. But what I've also realized, and you can tell me if this resonates with you, is I've only operated in survival mode. Only. Right? So
yes,
when you're operating in survival mode to take care of yourself and your kids, it is very hard to realize if you don't work on unpacking those traumas. You're at a point now, Sarah, right? Charisse, whatever, others, that you don't have to live in survival mode anymore. But it's way easier said than done.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right. So, when you started asking about like my journey and what I've been up to and going through the divorce, et cetera, I do want to share a story because I tell this story, and when I tell this story, people just don't even believe it. And sometimes I look back and I think I was having like an out of body experience to manifest what happened. And this will tie back into being in survival mode, which I don't really need to be in anymore, but I'm having trouble letting that go.
Yeah.
So, born and raised in New York, worked there. That's how we met. And then 4 years ago, I decided, at the time I was divorced 9 years, great co-parenting relationship, not great, my ex-husband and wife, but great co-parenting, which is the one great thing that came out of the divorce. Cause I know a lot of people don't have that.
Right.
We had our schedule. We agreed never to fight in front of the kids. We agreed never to talk badly about each other. And now it's like 12 years later, we've never done that. Not once in 12 years. We have the same belief system on education for them, the same belief system on raising them. So if I'm grateful and thankful for one thing out of that, it's I do believe my boys are healthy emotionally, maybe not with everything, but at least with the relationship that their dad and I have.
Yeah.
And how we've parented them. And I am grateful for that. So 4 years ago, we're divorced 9 years. We're in our set schedule. We have been for 9 years, the entire time. And I went to him and said, now 3 years after, 8 years we're married, we get divorced. 3 years after we're divorced, he gets remarried. 3 years after he's remarried, he gets divorced. Okay. So now at this point, 4 years ago, he and I are divorced. He was married again, divorced again. Now we're both single, right? Living in New Jersey. And I was just tired. I was like, I can't do this anymore. What am I doing? I'm done with surviving, at least in my living situation. And I know as a single mom in my current situation, I can't afford a house in New Jersey with $28,000 in taxes, and I'm not going to rent forever. And like, what am I doing with my life? Right.
Yeah.
I'm 44 at the time. So I went to him and said, listen, would you move? And he has all of his family in New York and New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he goes, why? And I said, listen, you're single. I'm single. if we stay single, we're not going to get ahead. What are you going to rent forever? I'm going to rent forever. Like in New Jersey and New York, the winters are freezing. Our sons are getting older. One of them loves baseball. Wouldn't it be great to move somewhere else warmer and not have to be like in this rat race?
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I would move, but just not to Florida because I need the seasons. And I said, okay, well, I really want to move to North Carolina. I've done some research. I'm going to start interviewing. And I said to him, you should know me by now. Because if you're agreeing to this, and I set my goals on this, and I do my vision boards, which are right here,
see it,
and I manifest something, this is happening. So like, I'm going to put this in motion. Like, are you getting on this train with me? Because I am not leaving the boys. I'm not going to take the boys away from you.
Right.
So if you don't want to move, I have to stay. Because again, I'm not leaving the boys and I'm not taking them away from you. They need their dad. If we do this, we have to do this together. And he was like, okay.
Wow.
So boom, vision board, looked at houses in North Carolina, made a vision board of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And fast forward a few months, I had come down to interview because there was 2 companies here at the time 4 years ago that I was looking at. And I said to them, listen, I have a full-time job, like in New Jersey. Can I come down and interview just over 1 or 2 days? And can you just put me through the whole process? Because flying back and forth is really hard. I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. And they were like, sure. So I come down, I'm interviewing simultaneously with these 2 companies, and I get in my rent-a-car because I already researched houses. And I said, I know I don't even have a job yet, but I don't care.
Right.
I'm going to go look at these houses in this neighborhood, in the school system I want, and all these things. So I'm driving through this neighborhood that I currently live in now. And I looked on Zillow or realtor.com and I picked like 10 houses in the area that were for rent. And I said, I'm just going to go look at these neighborhoods so that if I'm back in New Jersey and I end up getting an offer, I already have like some houses and neighborhoods picked.
Yeah.
And I just said, I was determined and I was like, I am going to do this. Like, we are moving. So, and of course we brought the kids along on a journey. Hey guys, listen, we might be moving, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't like a surprise to them. And this was probably in like the month April at the time, 4 years ago. So I'm done with my interviews. I get in my rent-a-car. I'm driving through the neighborhood. I have my iPad with the homes and I'm doing a turn and I drive up on this person's lawn. He happens to be outside, like walking his dogs or whatever. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I just drove up on your lawn, like missed that depth perception or something. And he was like, and we started talking. And he was like, and now meanwhile, I'd been looking at other houses and everyone here is like, oh, come in my house, come look at my house. And I was like, gosh, I'm not trusting you. You can be a serial killer. Like, I'm from New York. We don't invite people into our house. I was like, this is like not a thing.
Right.
So listen, I was trusting. These were like families with kids and whatever. And I'm like, sure, I'll come look at the layout of your house if it's the same one from across the street. So by the time I drove up on this guy's lawn, he was like, oh, well, if you're looking at the house across the street, it's the same layout as mine. Do you want to come inside and look? Now, meanwhile, I'd been in like 4 other people's homes
already,
North Carolina. And I was like, I guess these people are safe. Okay, cool. Everyone's so friendly here. And so I came in and I looked at the house. So he gave me his number. We ended up being friends. He was like, I moved from Boston a few years ago. I totally understand. I'm a single dad. I totally understand how hard it is. When you get home, like, let me know if you need any help. I'm like, great. So I go back to the hotel that night. He texts me and was like, do you want to get breakfast the next morning? I was like, sure. We go for breakfast. I was like, thank you so much for your help, whatever. I go back to New Jersey. We stay in touch and I finish interviewing and I get an offer at like, I think it was the end of May or June at the time. And it was like, Sarah, can you, we want to make you an offer. Can you start in 2 weeks? And I was like, yep. Because by then I had found the neighborhood, found a house because I had just put it on my vision board. And I was like, this is what's happening. Talked to my ex, got the kids in line. And I already started purging my house months in advance because I just set the intention.
Yes.
this is what's happening.
Mhm.
You're going to get an offer. Something is going to happen. You better clean your house out because then these movers are going to have
Preparation.
100%.
Okay, I love it.
So we ended up moving on the last day of the kids' school for the summer was June 16th. My mom came from Oregon to help watch the boys because my ex couldn't come down for like a month. He had to finish out his job.
Mm-hmm.
So she stayed with me. And I called the guy I told you about who took me out for breakfast and said, I need help. I have to move in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Can you go find me a house in the neighborhood? Because the one that I looked at that day was rented. So he FaceTimed me while I was working and I picked a house over FaceTime. And I was like, yeah, that's the house I'm moving to. So the kids finished school that Friday. My last day was Thursday at my previous job, packed the whole house. The movers came on Friday and we drove 12 hours to North Carolina that Saturday. And then my mom was here and I started my new job on Monday, literally just picking up my life. And then about a month later, my ex came down and he didn't have a place to live or a job. So I said, listen, for the kids, you can live in my guest room.
It's like
for 3 months. For 3 months, I will help you.
Wow.
So he moved down and moved into my guest room.
That's beautiful.
Which was great for the boys. It was hard. I really had to have some internal strength, right, to do that. But the guy that I told you about that I drove up on his lawn and he took me to breakfast, he's my now husband. And I now live in that house.
And this is why I am not doing online dating, because I love when you accidentally drive up on the lawn.
Right. Exactly.
And that person turns out to be your husband.
Right. Right.
I love it.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And so I live in a neighborhood where my ex lives 2 blocks away and the kids can ride their bike back and forth. And it's been 4 years and things aren't perfect, but you know, we're making it work.
Though. It sounds like a beautiful life.
It is. And so let's take that story back to why I feel, and I'm sure others feel like they are operating in a place of always struggling. I want to be honest. I am still in that place. I am still working on my traumas. I am still working on my past. But I have to remind myself that I manifested what I wanted and I got what I asked for. So I have to work on this trauma and I have to work on why do I feel like I can't ask for help and I'm still in survival mode when I don't need to be anymore.
You
right?
don't.
And so again, easier said than done. This is why I'm doing all the extra wellness work I'm doing, because I want to be clear for me, just because I really believe I manifested what I want and I have a great husband and a great community and they go to great schools and I have a great job.
Yes.
From the outside looking in, people could say, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you have it made. But they don't really know what's going on internally. And all the work that I'm doing to change my perception, because if I don't, I will self-sabotage the life that I have.
Yes.
And so I have to take accountability, right? Mm-hmm. Which my coach is teaching me, take accountability for working on your inner bonding and your inner demons and your health.
Yes.
Because if you don't take accountability, those things are not going to change.
They're not.
So for you could say, my career is great. My kids are great. Yep. I just don't want a relationship.
Yep.
Okay. If that's truly true, that's okay. But if it's really deep down not, then you have to take accountability for why you don't have a relationship.
Exactly.
And what is happening there, right?
What's happening there. Exactly. And I think that's what we don't do enough, right? So I think I coach people as well. And it's like, I think we make excuses
Yes.
When things are not happening for us the way that we want it to happen for us. And I love that you say you don't need to be in survival mode. I have a saying, living and surviving are two different things.
Right.
And you have to learn out. Like I thought I had peace every day. I thought I had this peaceful mindset. What I realized is your life is built up of many different levels and compartments, and the areas that I was claiming and proclaiming, I have I walk with confidence and this, and those were the areas that I did actually tackle and I addressed, and I became self-aware in those areas. So I've mastered those areas and they're great and I'm successful in them. But then there's this piece, the relationship piece, where because I put it to the back and I didn't bring it to the front, and I never, threw it on the table in anything and saying, what's going on here?
Right.
I didn't count that as not having peace. Now that I'm tackling it, I'm going, whoa. It's like starting the process over again. And people don't really, it took me actually a good 4 years to even get to where I'm at now. I think you're seeing the transform Sharice. She's called Sharice. You guys, it's Shar for you. You're seeing the transform Sharice, where because I did take the time beginning in 2016 or 17, it was, to go through that process. It is still daily work, everyone. My life warriors, it's work. It doesn't happen overnight. And even when you get to that place of, okay, you still have to work every day, because
absolutely
new things come up in your life. It's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to, be honest with yourself, because that was the other thing. Like you just said, is that what you really want? And when you sit and think about it deep down inside, it wasn't right. What I wanted. I was making an excuse because I didn't have it. And
also at the time, you probably just weren't, until you decided you're ready, you just weren't ready to address those things.
Right.
And now you're ready to address those things.
Right.
And I always tell myself, Sarah, if you want change, you have to welcome change and you have to make change happen.
Yes.
It's the same thing with my, when I do my workouts. If I master something and I start getting really strong in one movement, if I want to keep getting better, I can't be scared of that next level. I can't be scared of that next change, right? I have to welcome change to then get better. So actually things can show up in my life.
Absolutely.
And change. But going back to what you said before, because I don't want to forget, and I will, I do agree with you that your life experiences that you went through when I met you all the way through to today had to happen, and you had to go through those things to be where you are today and to help others.
Right.
Right. And so I would like to think that I am where I am today with work, with my kids.
Yes.
Because of the experiences that I went through. Right. And I'm also still working on this, but every day you have a new day.
Yes.
To show up differently and to change your belief system. And you don't have to live in the past. If I said to myself, oh, this was so hard. Oh, single mom. Yes. Oh, your ex, this. Oh, your mom taught you to be too independent. Oh, da.
Right.
Then I'm not using all of those experiences to figure out how to use them to my benefit.
Yep.
But like you're doing with your work right now, I have to realize that being too independent is not good right now, and not asking for help just doesn't work anymore. So those just don't serve me anymore. So I always like to say, figure out what doesn't serve you anymore.
Yes.
Let those things go, and then try to change what needs to show up in your life.
Yep.
And what does serve you now.
Yep. Invite the things in that is going to lend itself to giving you joyful moments, beautiful moments, happiness, whatever it is that you need.
Right.
And speaking of which, I just started. So I didn't even publish this. I published this on Amazon, but I'm doing this again. I'm on day 6.
Okay.
It's a 30-day, it's my 30-day journal that I use on my clients, and I give it out because it was a process I started 4 years ago, and it worked so amazing with transforming my mind and self-awareness. I had to pull that out again. I was like, wait, do I have...
Did you pull it out again, the one you wrote in, or are you using a brand new one?
It's a brand new one, because now the intentions are different. You see how you say set the intentions? Now this is all about relationship.
Right.
So now I'm focused on that.
Right.
I'm focused on unpacking that. And I'm in day 6. And I have to tell you, the stuff that I've learned in the last 6 days about where the trauma is actually coming from, that's also very interesting, because it's all about getting to the foundation. I need to understand what is the root, so I could dig that root up.
Right.
And it's been an eye-opener, and I want people to know you have to also be ready to discover some things about yourself that you might not be proud of.
Oh, yeah.
Because...
And that are hard. Right?
It's hard.
These things are going to come up and they're going to trigger you. And another thing that I've been learning is emotions aren't created in the present, they're created in the past. Ooh. So anything that triggers me, it's not because it triggered me now at this moment. It's triggering me and I'm emotional about whatever's happening because that's coming from something in the past.
Yes.
So if, to what you said, if you think about, and you're writing in your journal, which I need a copy of that, not your notes, but I need a blank journal. So I got to get my hands on one of those. When a trauma comes up and sometimes I journal as well. And I'm like, ooh, that hurt. Or, I don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. You have to be willing to go back to it and say, okay, that triggered me. I'm emotional about that. Where did that emotion come from?
Yes.
Because it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then if you can identify where it came from, then you can reprogram your mind. And so it won't be a trauma anymore. And I was on this call with a bunch of leaders through this other coaching cohort that I'm a part of. And someone in that cohort, and I wrote it down, someone in the cohort said, no one can push a button that we didn't have before.
Ooh, yes.
So if someone pushes a button or you're triggered by something.
Yes.
No one can push a button that you didn't have before.
Yes.
So let's say my ex says something to me and that triggers me.
Yes.
Well, he's pushing a button that happened from before. Or a friend or my mom or whomever.
Somewhere.
That button, the reason I'm getting pushed is because that button was pushed before.
Right.
So find out where that button was pushed before.
Yes.
And then deal with that so that it doesn't continue to give you trauma over and over and over.
Absolutely. Listen, I didn't know where this conversation was going today. I just was like, I want to talk to Sarah. I didn't know what we was going to talk about, but I think just from woman to woman, this conversation was so necessary and needed, because even you, just listening to you speak about your journey, I'm in shock. I would have never guessed all of that was happening because of the way you did show up to work. I would have never guessed you had those experiences. I, had you in this beautiful, persona of, she has it all together. Everything is great. Her life is great. Everything's wonderful.
I don't think anyone's life is great and wonderful at any given time.
That's weird.
But I think listen, I'm going to speak as a single mom for a really long time that wanted my career and wanted kids. It's a hard journey, but it's doable if that's what you want. And if you ask for help and you surround yourself with like-minded people who are going to help stand you up and prop you up when you're down, and vice versa. I mean, I'm glad that I showed up that way, but at the same time, of course, there's always things in the the background
Yes.
happening.
Do you think you have balance now, or is that something you're still working on? Do you think you have a balanced life?
I do now. And it's very interesting because 2 years ago, when COVID happened, I'm an extrovert. I love being around others. I learn around others. And I also was able to compartmentalize work and home, right? You go to work, you come home. And although I didn't work 9 to 5, I still knew I can come home, be with the kids, make dinner, hang out, they go to bed. I get back online if I need to, whatever. Now you're mushing everything together. Everyone's home. The kids are home on their laptops. You're home trying to work. I mean, that was a really difficult, like 3 to 6 months. I mean, that threw me into like some mental state I didn't even know I was going to go into.
Right.
Then as it kept going on and on and on, I sat back and I realized this is the first time in my life, in my kids' life, that I can help them with homework, that I can eat lunch with them, right? I can just block out my calendar when they have a break from online school. I can make them lunch. I hadn't done that in 14 years, 13 years. My son is 15, right? 2 years ago. And so, or decide, you know what, I'm going to turn the computer off at 5 and I'm going to go to CrossFit. And then that's when I really built in, I started CrossFit right when COVID hit. So now it's been about 2 years. I started CrossFit classes on Zoom, and now I actually go to the gym. But I was able to do that because I could get to a 5 or 6 o'clock class because I wasn't commuting 2 hours.
Yeah.
And when I was looking for a role, I'm now somewhere, I'm at Pillar 4.
Yeah.
And which is different from the company I was at when I first moved to North Carolina. But we have the flexibility. Right. And when I started there, there was 30 people a year and a half ago. Now there's 150, and we care about our culture. We have unlimited PTO, and we do a lot of research to make sure that we're giving employees what they need and we're staying on top of market trends. So from that perspective, yes, I feel like I go into the office 2 weeks. I get to 2 days a week. I get to be there with the senior leadership team and with my team. And then 3 days I'm home. Those are the days that I can do 5 or 6 o'clock CrossFit. Right. My 15-year-old does CrossFit with me. Like, that's our bonding. I can get just into singing lessons and soccer and all of the things. So to answer your question, COVID was not COVID, the disease, but, or the virus.
I know what you
COVID,
mean.
the time was actually a blessing for me and my kids.
I say that too.
Because
I say that too.
What were we doing, Charisse? Dropping our kids off as babies.
They hardly saw me.
No, right. At daycare at 6:30, right.
It was bedtime. By the time you got home, you got 1 hour tops, and then they're in their bed, you know. That's it. Right. And I didn't realize that until, I know what you're saying, with the pandemic. COVID made me realize, wow, that was the first time. I think I said it on one of my other shows. That's the first time I actually had dinner with my kids.
Right.
In all those
years. Ever. Right. And so, yeah, do I have balance that way? For sure.
Yeah.
But there's more work I have to do. I don't have balance in my work day, right? Back-to-back meetings. And I need to be better about delegating. I need to be better about teaching. And I need to be better about leading. And I really care about my team and want to do the best for them as well. So, I mean, always things that I can do to improve. But again, I don't want to live in survival mode at work either. Right. And so that's the balance that I'm working on right now.
Have you created a vision board for your work life, just like you did with your regular life?
There's 2 vision boards here.
About how you want to have time in your day and how
I don't know if that's on there.
Might want to add it as a vision.
I should add that on there.
Yeah.
But one is for work, and like one is, is personal.
Career. Like, when you say work, what is it about work that's on your vision board?
What's about work on my vision board?
Yeah.
Being healthy, right? Like, with a balance of being healthy.
Okay.
Being the best version of myself, being confident and secure, because even though I show up one way, don't tell me that as humans, we have insecure moments.
We do.
Right?
But
and
you don't have to give us your whole, I don't want to,
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm all about my vision board. So,
but everything that you just said, though, that you're still working on is what I'm saying. So why didn't you create a vision for that, to make sure all those things are wonderful or great? But like you said, we are in control of our reality. So
right.
if the vision is just like I did for me in terms of work, I focused on how I do not want to be too busy. That's part of my vision. My vision is
right. Work hard, but not all the time.
Not all the time. And I want to make sure that I do still have a lucrative business, but I own my schedule. I own my time. I own my calendar. I own my life, and everything just falls into place. So I included the small stuff too, where it's like, no, I also want a way to have passive income where I'm not, focused on running around like a crazy person, like I did when I had kids. Right. And I wish, when they were younger, right. And I wish I figured this out when they were younger, so I could have been there for them more as a mom. But it's never too late. I could do it now. I could show up now. I get to work from home all the time, which is great, unless I'm out doing a training. But I love the fact that I do own my schedule and my time now. And I do I pick and choose how I want to spend my time, where I'm not flustered or crazy. And you'll be so surprised how things just begin to flow when you become intentional about that.
Yeah. Maybe that's what's next for me.
That's what's next for you.
Yeah. That's what I'll get your 30-day journal for.
Yes. work on that. But this was such a great conversation. I don't want to keep Sarah any longer, but I do want to know, what's the one thing you would want to leave our life warriors with, anything? I'll get you back on a show. We'll talk work and HR stuff. But I think this conversation it just filled my soul. I'm going to document it as my beautiful moment for the day, because it just reminds me as well that we're humans. We all are. We might look different. We might come from different backgrounds. We might, have different cultures. But the reality is we're all facing some of the same stuff.
Right. Right. And I think if I wanted to leave anything, it's like I've seen this all over Instagram and Facebook and memes everywhere. But there's that meme that always says, I'm going to paraphrase it, give people grace and don't show up with judgment, because you don't really know what someone else is going through.
Yes.
And I think that's so important, because I think I've held that with me always, because maybe you didn't see it when we were working together, but I was going through a ton of struggling. And maybe that's why I was able to, get me not having kids at the time, give you everything that you needed and give the grace that you needed, because you were a human being and I cared about you as a person. But I also really believed that you would be able to operate and show up as your best self if you were given the time and the opportunity to be with your daughter at the time.
Right.
Right. So that would be like my first thing is have grace with others with little to no judgment, because you really don't know the behind the scenes story.
Yes.
And then really, how can we lift each other up? Right. Like just reconnecting with you and being here today. I'm just so proud of you. And I'm honored that you feel the way that you feel about me, and that I helped pave the way for you. But, and I'm so glad that I was able to do that for you. But you really, you created your life story and your life path, and
still creating it.
Really proud of where you are.
A little teary-eyed. I'm still creating it. And, it just reminds me, it's so good when I think God has really been good to me over the years, because he's really put some wonderful people in my path.
Yeah.
That has been able to walk this journey with me with no judgment, like you said.
Right.
And allowing me to really be honest about who I am in the world, so I'm really blessed, and I'm so grateful that you were that start for me. And I do believe that I am here now because of those, my experiences, and then just encountering just people like yourself. And I have some other really good, people in my life that I admired, while I was doing my thing or trying to do my thing, I had a vision for myself. I've always had a vision for myself. As young as I can remember, I knew I was going places. And I was determined to get there. And even walking into your office I remember my mom that morning, she was like, how are you going to get a job in HR with no experience? I was like, you watch me.
Okay. Right. I'm going to do it. Yep. And give people chances.
Yes.
Right. Give people chances, because look at what it can turn into.
Yeah. So I want my life where it's just anything. I really do believe anything you want in life, you could have it. I think anything you put your mind to, you could accomplish it. I believe that if you just take the time out to unpack some of those areas in your life that might be just holding you back a little bit, you will come out in a beautiful place, a better place. I think attaining that peaceful mindset will help you along that journey, because that was the first thing I had to do, was tackle how I think and how I feel emotionally.
Absolutely. You have to be willing to do the work and take accountability.
Yeah, for
sure. But all life warriors are not alone, right? And that's such a perfect name, because life is not easy all the time, right? And there are challenges that you have to, fight through like a warrior. So, and if you do, I do believe fruits of your labor will come. Not everything will be easy all the time, but if you're willing to fight for what you want in your life, I think that everything is possible.
Everything.
Yeah.
And with that being said, thank you, Sarah, so much.
Oh, I'm so happy I got to spend this hour with you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for being real, raw, and authentic, and sharing that journey. I know we probably should have talked a little bit about your career, but we'll get to that at another time.
Yeah, this all adds to it.
This all adds to it. And my life warriors do know that there is a coach out here that loves you.
Well, I love you right back.